Welcome to Promo Insiders, an ASI media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry, from hard-hitting news to fun trends and analysis. I'm Teresa Hagel, executive editor of digital content, and today I'm joined by Carly Schulman, an editorial intern this quarter with us. Carly is are you a junior or a senior? Senior at Northwestern University at the Medill School of Journalism. And I thought today we could talk about a couple of different topics, just from her impressions of the promo industry, but also about like design trends and logo trends, because Carly has a background in graphic design. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of tap her knowledge in that arena. But as you guys are listening, if you have any questions for us or, comments or want to share your own insights, please feel free to type it into the comments and we'll address it as they come in. So Carly, just why don't you start out and just tell us a little bit about, yourself, your background, what you're studying, what you plan to do in the future, just kind of the whole gist about you.
Yeah, totally. So my name is Carly Schulman. I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Right now I'm a senior at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. I'm studying journalism and also doing a double major in sociology and taking a lot of design classes because that's something that I'm personally interested in. I've had a little experience in the promo industry before coming to ASI. I've worked for a screen printing company as a design and sales manager for the past couple of years. And then, kind of figuring out future plans right now. But I've been enjoying my work at ASI as an editorial intern, doing stories, researching different things, and just learning more about the promo industry.
And one thing that's a little unique, well, somewhat unique, is that you are an identical twin.
I am, yes.
I know that gets, I think we talked about this before, but like people ask you like really obnoxious questions about it. So I'm not going to ask any obnoxious questions, but I always think that's kind of a fun and, I mean, I guess I say unique, but obviously there's two of you, but not many people are identical twins.
Yeah.
So what would you say, you've been here about, I think you were saying about 7 weeks. What is the most interesting or unexpected thing you've learned about the promo industry during your time with us?
I think number one is just the breadth of products that come out of the industry and how encompassing the industry can be. It's easy to think of things like water bottles and pens and t-shirts, but it's really such a variety of products that I've seen during my time here and things that you never would expect anyone to buy, but you realize there's always a market for something. And some people are really just looking for that next super unique product. So it's always really fun to see what comes out of the industry. And then, it's more than just selling little trinkets and getting ads out there. Promo products can just be used for so many different kinds of things and have so many different applications. So it's just been interesting to see the variety of uses and products that are out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I would have never thought of if I didn't work for ASI and see what suppliers and distributors are doing. And I love to see how creative they can get with even if it is just like a normal thing like a pen, like the way you kind of put the messaging with that and how you design it, like that can just take it to a whole new level of like creativity. So as far as, you're on campus right now, what are some of the most popular items you see, like your fellow students using as far as promotional products? Because I know like you can get stuff at the bookstore or, I don't know, like whatever kinds of, promos you guys get. So like what is popular? What's hot right now?
Yeah, I would definitely say one of the top items would be hoodies or jackets. Whenever someone's in a club or an organization, especially a Greek organization, they're always going to want to do an order of hoodies, which is kind of a lot of things, a lot of the type of work that I've been dealing with for the past couple of years. But, you walk around campus and everyone's got a different kind of hoodie on. A lot of those are just for the university in general, but people love making them for their organization. It's a great way to kind of like establish that camaraderie and feel like you're a part of something. And then outside of clothing and apparel, I would definitely say that water bottles are popular just because as a college student, you're always on the go. You're using a water bottle a lot. And I would say the one thing that I've seen people give out on campus more than anything else are those little rubber silicone phone wallets that you stick on the back of your phone, which
Yeah.
I honestly feel are a really great product to be giving out, because if a student does end up using it, it's on their phone, the back of their phone, for usually months on end, and that's something you pick up and you see all the time. So in terms of cost to impressions ratio, that's like a really amazing product for that. I know the phone wallets I've used for a year plus, and it is something you look at multiple times a day. So I see those a lot at sports games and any sort of situation where people are trying to market to students. And I honestly think it's a very successful
Yeah.
product.
Because of course everybody has their phone with them kind of at all times, and having that little extra, wallet so you can stick some money in there or an ID, like that's a great little add-on to your phone. Yeah, and as far as like the hoodies and stuff that you're talking about, do you find that people are making hoodies for specific events too, or is it just like to rep like the organization, or do they do like ones that are like kind of themed for various events or times of year?
I would definitely say that depends on the organization and the budget of the organization. It's not as popular at a place like Northwestern, but you'll see schools that are very large and have very prominent Greek life organizations. They will, make a shirt or a hoodie for anything they do. I saw a joke one time. It's how many sorority girls does it take to change a light bulb, and it's like one to screw in the light bulb and 10 to make shirts for the event. Because people love doing like little shirts for fundraisers or date nights or trips. But it's really dependent on the budget that they have. So if a club were to have higher dues, they would be more likely to, use that to do more apparel. Versus if you have a smaller club, most likely you're only going to be making apparel once a year. Sometimes they'll do a variety, like, they'll do sweatpants and a hoodie and a t-shirt. And then sometimes they'll just do one product. So it's super dependent on the demand, the size of the club, and just the funding that they have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, based on your time with us and just, your time out in the world as a person who sees and uses promotional products, what is your favorite? What's your favorite promo product?
I think this might be definitely have a lot to do with the fact that I go to college in a very cold place, but I love a jacket or a hoodie. It's something that you can wear, any time of day. And in our ad impression study that just came out, you can see that in most states, outerwear definitely gets the most impressions and has the most impact on people. I would definitely say that's true for myself, especially if you get a product that is really high quality, something that you can use over and over again. That's something I find myself reaching for in my closet. And, outside of that, outside of just a hoodie, some sweatpants, a nice winter hat, things that keep you warm and things that are really those anytime kind of products, those are definitely my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's so many different styles and colors, and just there's so many options now. So you can really get something that is fun and unique. And like you said, a higher quality piece is definitely going to be something that people are going to appreciate more and probably use more, and will give them a better impression or a better feeling about the brand that gave it to them.
Yeah, and I think it's really important when you're working with a good designer and you're able to have some really nice art on it. It can become a statement piece or something a lot more fashionable versus just a logo slapped on, a regular blank piece of apparel. And I think that's something I really enjoyed working on, is trying to take those designs and make them go above and beyond, so you can create products that people really love wearing, and then, get more impressions for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's such a great point. That design is really what will elevate these blank garments. So, they look cool on their own, but like a good design can bring it up, so many notches, and a bad design can just kind of tank it. And I think a lot of people in the industry talk about, like there's so many 5K runs, but when you just put like 100 logos on the back for this 5K, it it doesn't look great, and it also doesn't really help those businesses do what I think they're trying to do. So you really have to think about, the look that you're kind of going for. So I mean, speaking of design trends and logos, you wrote an article. One of the first things you did for us was about some of the top logo design trends for 2022. Let's kind of go back to that. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you found and wrote about in the article? What are some of the hot trends?
Yeah. So this is always a debate that comes up every single year, and you'll find every designer has a little bit of their own take on it. And I think most logo trends, someone could argue it's not hot or hot for a certain year, but there are a couple I noticed that really stood out to me. One that I think is very specific for this time and this year is multidimensional logos. So creating logos that can exist in a 3D space, whether that be AR, VR, whatever you want to use it for. I think with the emergence of the metaverse and just a lot more content that's happening in 3D, a lot of companies have wanted to create a logo that has the multidimensionality factor to it. And so that's something I found to be super unique for this year.
And that was, not to interrupt you, but Facebook was one of the biggest companies, right? Meta, I guess are called now. They had an example of a multi-dimensional logo in their redesign.
Yeah, and I think that definitely set off a trend for a lot of other companies, both in the tech space and outside of it, to get that aspect to their own logo.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what are some other things that you're seeing?
So this comes up a lot, but just making streamlined logos that can, be applied to a lot of different scenarios. I think a lot of times a company will come out with a logo that has a bunch of colors or intricate little designs that maybe might not translate super well, whether they're scaled up or down, whether they're existing on a product or in a different dimension than just on paper or on a screen. So taking logos, really streamlining them, and making them adaptable to a bunch of different situations. That's been another big trend, and I think will continue to be in years to come. But then a little opposite of that is using bolder colors and more colors. I think there was definitely a trend a couple years ago to kind of turn everything black and white, and companies are now coming back and embracing a little bit more, having bold colors and taking advantages of, the advancements in the promo products industry, the availability that we have now to do direct to garment printing, really intricate screen printing, and really complicated embroidery that does allow you to use those different colors and more dimension, not from just line work, but from your color scheme as well.
Yeah, those are all really good trends, and I think you make some some really good points about things need to translate between, not even talking about the metaverse and like virtual reality, but you need to translate between like, what goes on your website and what goes on your pens and hats and apparel, what goes on paper. It all has to work. It all has to look good together. But there are some, great like digital printing and newer techniques with decoration that opens up, more options, but you still have to kind of think about, is this going to work everywhere I want to put it? So I know those were some of the things that you had talked about in the article, but I believe you had, when you were doing your research, there were some other things that you had found as well. So what are some other design trends you kind of came across when you were researching?
Yeah, a design trend I really love personally is the use of hand-drawn illustrations and really custom elements, going in and making little things like a mascot or maybe more of a handwritten feel to your text, taking it from just using shapes and fonts to getting illustration involved. I think that can have a really personal touch to your logo, and make it more unique, and less easy to replicate, and then in turn more easy to kind of recognize out in the world. And then going off of that a little bit is just, a lot of designers told me that it's super important to develop out your visual brand identity outside of just your logo. So creating other smaller elements that can be used in conjunction with your logo or on their own that are a little bit of a variation that just show your brand identity, and can be used in place of or along with your logo just to add some variety visually.
Yeah, so you're kind of building a whole family of, colors and icons and just everything that will kind of shout that this is your brand, even if you're not putting the logo, out
Yeah.
there. And I think, I think you mentioned this in your story as well, but one thing that's always important to remember when it comes to any kind of logo trends or ideas is that if it doesn't work for your company, if it doesn't work for your, brand story, you shouldn't like jump on the bandwagon, right? Like you should figure out, you know, what is actually going to work and do what you needed to do, not just be like, oh, well, Facebook is doing this, so I need to do this too.
Yeah, I think when you're going into a rebrand, it's really important to start with a lot of intentionality. Think about what you want your brand to say to people, what you want to communicate to people before they know what your company is about, because the logo, the visual identity is going to be the first thing that they're going to see. So it's easy to kind of jump on the first thing you think looks nice or looks pretty, but it's really important to think about what you want this to say about your company, and go into the process really keeping that in the front of your mind, while you're doing things. Obviously, it's nice to have something that's visually appealing, but you want to make sure there's substance behind it and a lot of meaning that's going to help elevate your brand rather than just look nice.
Yeah, those are all really important points. Well, I think that covers a lot of really great trends for people. Is there anything else that you want to add about, promotional products, logo design, graphics, anything that we didn't kind of cover right now?
I think just to tie it all up, it's important to go into whatever venture you're doing, whether it's a rebrand, whether it's making a logo with a lot of intentionality about what you want what you want the outcome to be. So a lot of people would just throw their logo on some pens or do something, but when you think about the product that you're gonna go out and you're gonna sell to people, think about who's going to use it, think about how much they're going to use it. So if there is an audience you really want to cater towards, say you really want, people who love the outdoors, to be sporting your look, it's great to have a really nice piece that they're going to use for a long time. Maybe get that to a smaller audience rather than just bringing out 10,000 pens, whoever will take them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same goes for just logo design trends. Make sure it's reaching the right audience, and always have someone that you trust to look at it before it actually comes into fruition, to make sure that the things you're doing, you're not kind of just jumping on the first thing that you see. Make sure that you get a lot of opinions on what's going to work best for your company.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, but I know there's been stories of like big brands that do a new logo and it says something like, it's almost, I don't know, like I don't want to say pornographic, but it just like will be like something like really like it looks like something bad. Like it doesn't look like what I think they were intending it to look like. So was there not enough people, in this process, or was there no one willing to say no to whatever people were saying? But I think it's a good point to make sure you have like impartial or trusted people looking at what you're doing and to kind of pull you back if you're kind of like going over the ledge with an idea that you're just so stuck on. So yeah, I mean, I think these are all like some really good pieces of advice for people. So I appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today, Carly. And for everyone else, this has been an episode of Promo Insiders, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And listening.